Hello and welcome to another How Lou Sees It review. Tonight I finally review Twilight Struggle, and it is a two-player strategic risk-like card game where the theme is based on the Cold War. It is designed by Ananda Gupta and Jason Matthews. This is the deluxe edition that I'll be looking at and reviewing today, published by GMT Games. Now, it's a two-player game. One of the things that you should know about this game is it's a very long game. Like a lot of other risk games and things like that can take a while. This one, the first time I played it, took about 4 hours or so, and it's a long game for me. That's a long game for me, and for most people, I think. So that's one thing to consider moving forward with this. Again, it is just a two-player game, but it is very, very well done. It's been ranked on Board Game Geek as the #1 board game for quite some time now. And I'm going to just go ahead and review this game. I'm not going to go into details on how to play the game. You can look at some different videos for that. But I'm going to just talk about the components of the game and talk about my thoughts of what I think of the game. So, as far as component-wise, a lot of stuff in this box, and very, very good quality. So the box itself is very sturdy, very nice. It's not huge, it's not overbearing, so it's actually a very, very nice size, and yet it has quite a lot in it. So there's all these baggies that come with the game, more than I actually use at this point. I don't know if I'll come up with a different strategy for bagging everything up or not, but so anyway, lots of baggies available there. The rule book, we'll take a look at that first, and the rule book is very nice, but it's in a very different format than I think most people are used to with kind of the more streamlined popular games. It's basically, I'm a mechanical engineer, and it reads to me almost like a tech manual in some regard. It's split up into different headings here, like card play, and then each under that it has different paragraphs and sections that are numbered. So 5.2, events associated with your opponent. It goes through. There's some examples and everything. There isn't a whole lot of illustration. There is some provided, which I think is an improvement from the first editions. But it's a good, solid rule book, but the formatting, I think, may be a little bit challenging or different for people. What is really nice is that there is a few things provided in here. There's a late war scenario for Twilight Struggle. So in this game, there's different cards. There's like 110 different cards, and you're going to play through the early war deck, and then as you progress and the game moves on, you're going to shuffle in the mid-war deck, and then you're going to shuffle in the late war deck. The times that I've played it up until now, we haven't made it into the late war. We've gotten really close to the end of the mid-war, basically, but we haven't made it into the late war cards yet. And so it's kind of not disappointing, but sometimes you want to get to be able to play with some new cards. Well, the rule book provides a late war scenario so that you can actually set it up so that you're able to utilize those late cards, which is very good. I like that idea a lot. I haven't played with that yet. It also includes a variant. There's a card in here that goes back and forth that both players can use throughout the game called the China card, and there's a variant for that, and it's included. So that's also fantastic. In this extended example play, it goes through many turns here and gives you a good idea of a feel for the game. Other than that, this is one of the biggest things that this game does really well is theme. In the back of this rulebook, you have card histories. All of the cards are based off of real people, real events, and it just fits really, really well into the theme of this game. The events impact the certain countries that the event's related to, and so it's just very, very well done, and the theme just exudes theme, and I love it. It's great. Component-wise, there's a bunch of these little influence tokens, double-sided. Very good quality there. There's a bunch of other markers to keep track of DEFCON status, all that sort of stuff. But the majority is the components makes up the game are these influence tokens that would be placed on the countries, along with the many, many cards that you will use throughout the game. Now, there's lots of stuff going on in this game, which is really, really good. The one thing I will mention is that the game is kind of, there is how do I say it? The Soviets begin the game with the initiative, and they're pretty strong in the early war. And it seems like most of the time the U.S. is just trying to hold in there until the mid-war, and usually they can start pulling back. And so it's about 60-40 percentage wins for the Soviets, I think. So it's slightly in favor of the Soviets. I don't think that's necessarily a huge issue, though. It's just the game is really, really fun. It really helps that the theme comes through. There is no better game out there, I think, that applies the theme as well as this game does. Other than that, there's so much strategy to it. There are dice in this game, provided a blue and a red, and they're just normal six-sided die, and so there is some luck to the game, and it's normal, but there is so much strategy to this game as well. And you have the cards, and it's pretty simple. You're going to either use the card for its operations value to try to place influence, or perform coups to get rid of coups or realignments to get rid of your opponent's influence in countries as you try to gain influence enough to control these different countries. And throughout the game, different scoring cards come up. When those do, you are able to play those, and the player kind of can gauge when those are played. He has to play them that turn. He draws those scoring cards, but there's some little manipulating things that you can do there. And so throughout the game, you're trying to do that. You can win by gaining your victory points to 20. And this score track is very, very cool, kind of a new element to me. It's this big tug war type thing of, you score points, it goes this way, the Soviet score points goes that way, and you're going back and forth. But there's the strategy behind, and there's so many different things to think about. Europe is a huge, huge part in this game. When the scoring card comes up for Europe, if someone controls Europe, all the battleground countries, and meets all the criteria there, that's a win. You have to be careful as you perform coups in battleground countries. The DEFCON status is going to get low, and if someone causes nuclear war, they automatically lose and the other person wins. If the game continues on and on, you'll go through all these different stages. You get to the very end, go through. No one has won at that point. You do one final scoring round according to the scoring regions. But the huge part of this is the cards, and there's definitely a big learning curve for people. So if someone's played the game like 10 times and you're playing against someone who's never played before, the person who's played 10 times is going to have a huge advantage over the other player because they're more familiar with the cards and how they interact with each other. Now, that shouldn't turn you off yet, because as you play a few times, you get more used to the cards and everything. I think you'll really, really enjoy this game. It's, again, has that kind of risk type element to it, but it's not as luck based. It's very tense. The game is very tense almost all the time. There's, you're trying to keep the battle countries, and you're trying to do this, and you have this scoring card, so you're trying to get influence there, but you're trying not to be too obvious about it so that your opponent figures it out and also moves over into the South America if that's coming up scoring wise. And there's ways that you can keep your opponent's events from happening by sending those cards to the space race, and different things like that. So but it is card driven, and the only thing that I struggle with this game is the length. It's very, very fun, but it is somewhat challenging to make that much time for games for me these days. Hour and a half long games is more of a sweet spot for strategy games. But this really, I can see now that it deserves that #1 rating. Up until this point, before I was able to get a review copy of this game and play it and think about it, and it just, I didn't fully understand, and I don't think you can until you play this a few times and give it a shot. There's a lot to this game. There's plenty of different ways to get points throughout the game. There's plenty of different ways that you can win or lose the game, and everything is just very, very well done. It's not, as I said, perfectly balanced, but it's kind of like this. That the Soviets are going to come out, and the U.S. is going to have to push, and then they may actually come back and start pulling some big moves. And it's just really, really fun. I've enjoyed it a lot. Can't wait to play it more and more. That is Twilight Struggle. Now, I mean, like I said, there's a lot to the game as you get into it, but don't be intimidated by all the pieces and maybe what you've heard and everything. Don't be intimidated by it. Just enjoy it. Just pull out the cards, read the cards, and just kind of take it as it goes. And as you learn the cards, you'll get more and more strategy to it, and you'll be able to grow. I mean, you'll be able to feel like the game, and you are progressing in the game. You're not going to get tired of this game, I don't think, very quickly anyway. So this components, theme, the gameplay, different win scenarios, the many different ways that you can manipulate and use these cards, it's fantastic. Twilight Struggle, published by GMT Games.